All right, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay, but I promise you, this one's going to be worth it because our guest tonight is going to resume coverage for us here of one of our favorite companies that is Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And we are getting down to the final stretch, the nitty gritty here, because the last shows of the year are coming up next weekend. Fight or Fright Part 1 and Part 2. And he's going to be a big part of it here, our guest. He has been on here numerous times, but I promise you, tonight's appearance with him is going to take all those appearances and just blow them by the wayside. So let's get to it here. And without further ado here on the Sportzwire, number one level watcher, wrestling star here from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is Nick Thomas Crenson. My friend, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Reverend.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate that here. Obviously, always good to be with you, but certainly you have been the talk not only of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, my friend, but also all of the professional wrestling world, because certainly we'll get into later on the 30-minute Iron Man match that actually went longer than 30 minutes, and we'll explain to everybody why, but also because of the fact you are going to be in action for not one, but two matches here in Fight or Fright Part 1 and certainly Part 2, and you're going to be up close in action here next Friday against Adonis Felios. And for those that are watching and listening here on Sportswire Radio, set the tables for us and what we can expect against one Adonis Felios.
Interesting thing about this match, it actually did happen back in May at Vindication, but kind of didn't because James Marshall destroyed me at that time, and yeah, should have saw that one coming from 10 miles away. But what to expect in this match is, now that I'm actually going to be straight up fighting Adonis, pain.
Okay, all right.
On levels that is not even imaginable. See, Adonis calls himself the Drip King. He calls himself, the Drip King because he feels that he's got this big imposing force that he can use. Adonis, what good's a king that can't stand? What good is a king to raise a glass when his fingers are broken? Adonis, what good is a king when they have no head?
Interesting. Points I haven't really pondered or thought about here. So you're telling me here then you're not too worried about those headbutts that Mr. Felios regularly does, and you've got a plan to kind of combat some of his offense in the ring there next week?
Obviously. Like, Adonis is a good wrestler, but he has an obviously glaring weakness. And it's, well, one, his kneecaps, but two, his hands. He relies on those big chops, and yeah, he relies on his headbutts as well, but those chops, those things, you over-rely on your hands too much, you make your hands a target. You make your body part a target. And Adonis, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to target your arms. And by the end, I'm going to make you give up.
Interesting here. Before I come back to the match here with Adonis Felios, my very good friend, Anthony J. Finkel, who normally I see on Thursday nights before I go live, is saying, no way that I'm live on the radio right now. Yes, I am here. And also we have somebody else here from the Black Mass podcast that says, hey, Tom and Crenson. So we thank that person for tuning in, and certainly we appreciate that. But Let me ask you though something that you just said, because I want to go back to it, because I find it interesting on what you just said here, Nicholas Crenson. Because usually when I have a wrestler on before a match, I'll always tell them, this is what I'll always tell them in all the years I'm doing this on Sportswire Radio. I tell them, don't tell me what you're going to do out there in the ring, so your opponent knows what they can do to avoid it. But you actually told us exactly what you're going to do to Adonis Felios. I mean, Nicholas Crenson, are you sure that that's exactly what you want to do? Because, like I said, I always ask every wrestler this same question. Usually they say they demur, and I tell them with a catch, don't tell me. But you just told me exactly what you're going to do to Adonis Felios. I mean, tell me why.
Because I could give him all the tools he needs to stop me, and he still wouldn't be able to.
Okay,
See,
all right.
I hope he can prove me wrong, because that just makes things even more entertaining, but he can't, because I'm going to do exactly what I said I was going to do. That arm is my target.
Well,
And there
we'll
ain't a
certainly
damn thing
find
he
out.
can do about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, if I'm Adonis Felios, I would certainly be treading very lightly. And if you like what you hear from us here, when it comes to Wrestling Championship Entertainment, please give us a follow at WCEHeat.com. Also, WCE Heat on Facebook. Also, Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Also, please like on YouTube as well. You can watch content, you can watch matches, you can watch full length shows. I mean, there's pretty much anything you can do. And if you're a fan of professional wrestling, I highly encourage you follow, like, and subscribe to Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And thankfully, the guys are not going to be in the ring this coming weekend because of everything that's going to go on here with the hurricane, obviously, all that stuff going on. So we're thankful that we're doing it next weekend when things will be much nicer here across the Midwest and the East Coast and the South. And also, we have here Mason Black here is in the house. So certainly shout out to Mason Black. But let's come back to Nicholas Crenson. And I mean, let's talk about Adonis Felios here one more time. And I kind of feel like also right now, maybe Adonis Felios right now is getting you at the wrong time, because the way I see you here tonight, and I've had you on a bunch of times, and I know you've always brought your A game, you've always been serious, your ring work speaks for itself. But I almost feel like now, Nicholas Crenson, I'm getting a different Nicholas Crenson. Maybe, am I missing something here, or tell us about it?
Different, maybe a little bit. You know, I've always been kind of the honest bad guy when it comes to my alignment. Like, don't get me wrong, I will side with whoever benefits me at the time being, but I am still, in heart, a villain.
So you've always been a villain then, all this time?
Of course. I mean, who do you think? Who do you think told Jonathan Pierce to accept the challenge of James Marshall to put his career on the line?
Fair. That's a fair point. Listen, I can't argue there. Can't argue there. Certainly, you did put some, maybe poison the well. Maybe you might want to say. I mean, it's fair. I mean, I can't argue there with that. But I mean, certainly, do you think that some in the locker room are taken back by this, or doesn't really matter to you?
I'd be surprised if they weren't, but also sometimes even the obvious can be missed by simple people.
Well, certainly right now it doesn't look like Nicholas Crenson is too simple right now, and he looks like he's on a mission right now when it comes to Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And let me ask you this question about this weekend come up. I know, again, we've had you on different times and different instances, but I almost feel like right now, for you, this is a big weekend coming up next weekend here for the Wrestling Championship Entertainment, because you can really do some real damage here, figuratively and literally, because Adonis Felios and Darkfire we'll get to here in a couple of minutes. But I almost feel like, Nicholas Crenson, that this is a weekend where you've got a lot on the line here, and I think that you prove to a lot of people why you've done what you've always done, and maybe you have been the person that's not so different. This is why I think that this weekend coming up for you, my friend, is going to be maybe the biggest one for anybody else.
Truer words have not been spoken, Reverend. But I'll give all credit to my opponents this weekend. Yeah, they're good, but guess what? I'm better, and I'm going to win. But I'm not only going to win, I'm going to leave a lasting effect on the course of this company this weekend.
So you're telling
Next
us that
weekend.
you're telling us that this company's not going to be the same after what you do in the ring then next week. Is that what I just heard?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, ladies. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? I've heard a lot over the years on Sportswire Radio, but I think what I just heard is that Nicholas Crenson, when he gets through from Adonis Felios and Dog Fire, that Wrestling Championship Entertainment is never going to be the same again. And something tells me that Wrestling Championship Entertainment, if I'm in the back right now, I would definitely tread very, very lightly from Nicholas Crenson, because look the way he looks right now, ladies and gentlemen. There is a certain motivation. There is a certain psychology right now that we haven't seen from other wrestlers come on. Listen, I had Bentley on yesterday, international, renowned superstar, but he doesn't even look it the way Nicholas Crenson looks right now. Nicholas Crenson has his game face on and some. And next weekend can't come any sooner, especially if you're a Wrestling Championship Entertainment fan. Also, we have here WCE and Sports Radio, Sportswire Radio for life. We certainly hope that's the case. Keep following Wrestling Championship Entertainment. But let me ask you something now, because let's transition into Darkfire. Obviously, we saw what happened with you and Darkfire, and we saw where you almost literally took his head off there. I mean, do you have any remorse or anything that you might want to take back when it came to the punishment that you gave for Darkfire, or maybe he had it coming to him? Talk to me about what occurred between you and Darkfire.
The only thing I regret is I didn't hit him harder. Now, as a double entendre, because here's the interesting thing about that. Darkfire's day 2. And like I said, I was going to beat him so hard he'd fall back into his darkness that he's crawled out of.
You mentioned his past. You did mention his demons. You mentioned the fact that he has a very, very, how can I put this, checkered past, I think.
Oh, yeah, he does. And really, it isn't necessarily out of malicious intent for the guy. I'm just doing this for fun. Just for fun. It's not because I hate him. It's because I find this whole thing entertaining to me.
So, are you saying that it's not about Darkfire, but it's about something else?
Oh no, it's about more than just Darkfire. It's a bigger thing here that I'm here to rectify, and I'm going to have to be the villain to do it. So, Darkfire, I don't feel sorry for what I'm going to do to you, or what I did to you, because you're a part of a bigger picture. You're just a piece, not the whole puzzle.
I'll come back to the bigger piece, but I do want to go back to some of the things that you say, because obviously it's well documented about Darkfire's past, and certainly he's had his share of demons. And listen, we've all had our share of demons, we've all had our setbacks, but did you feel that in a way that had to come out there? Because there are fans of Wrestling Championship Entertainment that may not have known the backstory of Darkfire, that may not have known about what he's gone through. But did you feel it was necessary to bring those things up? Did you feel that it was just really about something else? I mean, before we get to the bigger picture part, I mean, did you feel that there was something there that why you specifically wanted to have mentioned? Because, like I said, I could understand what you did in terms of beating him up. Maybe there was something there. Maybe he looked at you the wrong way. I get all that. I sympathize with that, but I'm just trying to figure it out here for wrestling championship entertainment fans. The addiction, bringing that up. Did you need to do that, or tell me why?
Because one thing, Darkfire, for all the credit that he gets, his addiction basically put a huge hamper on our the beginning of our year.
Hmm. So he wasn't professional then on behalf of the company. He wasn't a true professional like maybe you and some others were then.
The company. Man. Gotta love the company, don't you? It's not necessarily that he wasn't professional. It's that he was basically originally pushed into the initial interstate title match. And he's decided to let his demons cause him to miss one of the biggest matches in his career as a waste of effort. And you think that you just get better and better and you don't have that one person who's going to make you pay your due. Darkfire, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to own you. I am going to psychologically end you.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the most strongest words I've heard yet to date on Sportswire Radio. And if I'm Darkfire, I would certainly not only want to tread lightly, but maybe reconsider my plans. Maybe you do want Hurricane Ian to come and put strong winds and rain to continue to the Midwest for a week. I don't know. But certainly that might be in the back of my mind, to say the least. But I did want to bring this up, and I hate to go back again to the, let's say, lack of professionalism. But, when you said some of those things about Darkfire and things getting in the way of him and competing for a championship, and you see this all too often in wrestling. Obviously, I think of the likes of people that are no longer with us, unfortunately, like Scott Hall, the British Bulldog. There's a number of wrestlers you can think of in history. We even see it most recently in AEW with the likes of CM Punk and the lack of professionalism, maybe for different reasons than Darkfire, but there's a number of different names that are filled in the wrestling business for reasons why they don't do a job or they miss out on something. I would have safe to say then, if it was you in that spot, that wouldn't have happened to you, correct?
No, it wouldn't. Because one, I don't let my demons control me. Instead, I control them.
It sounds almost like the EC3 feed the narrative. Certainly, the narrative there is that Nicholas Crenson is on his way to getting some gold, and we have a comment here that says HBK and Brett were like that. Well, I mean, do you guys have a long history, like where you guys just haven't liked each other? I mean, I almost have to follow up on that. Do you guys? Is there like a long anything I'm missing?
No, actually, nothing at all. Like I
Oh,
said,
okay.
I don't necessarily hate Darkfire. I am doing this mostly for my own amusement.
So maybe you're actually doing this in a way, maybe to help Darkfire almost. I mean, because to me, I see a different narrative here between you and Adonis and you and Darkfire. I think that's kind of what I see here. The way you spoke about Adonis and the way you spoke about Darkfire, to me, sound like two totally different things. That's just what my interpretation of this here is so far.
Well, I also told you exactly what I was going to do to Adonis,
Yes, you
and
did. To be fair, you did. He was straight up. I can't argue there.
Darkfire, I'm just going to simply leave him with his neck broken.
Well, I hope that they have doctors on call. Maybe Dr. James Andrews might want to fly into the state of Wisconsin because certainly Darkfire might be with a neck brace and some. So certainly he might be performing some neck surgeries coming to a weekend to a Wisconsin hospital near you if Nicholas Crenson gets his wish here. And again, we are on Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook anytime at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And also, again, like us on YouTube at Sportswire Radio. And also, you can go out and buy a t shirt from us here. That information is in my Facebook bio as well. So, all great stuff. We are here with pro wrestling star Nicholas Crenson, and I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Mason Black tunes in here and says, Darkfire versus Nicholas Crenson is going to be great with a thumbs up. I mean, it sounds like this might be the match. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb before I get to the whole bigger picture thing that you spoke about, Nicholas Crenson. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that this has the potential to steal the show. We've got some great matches ahead. I know I've got the whole thing with JDT and Craven Rage, and James Marshall certainly got Sean Jovi. I mean, we've got a litany of great matches. But something tells me here, you know what? Mason Black might be onto something in that you and Darkfire, Nicholas Crenson versus Darkfire, might steal the show.
Interesting thing about that. You know what Darkfire's first match back was this year?
Tell us, because I have a feeling I think I know what it is. But tell us here on Sportswire Radio for those that may not know.
So Darkfire's return match at Beat the Heat was against me.
Mm-hmm. Well aware of that. I knew that. I knew that was coming.
I gave him a fighting chance, and he only lasted about maybe maybe about 6 minutes at 6 minutes,
Hmm.
at most. And he ended up one knocked silly and then laid out twice, and I beat him. This time, I'm going to beat him again, but I'm also going to hurt him, and I'm doing it just because I want to hurt him, because I find it fun.
Let's come back to this whole idea about a bigger picture and walk me through, for those that are hearing that, and especially wrestling championship entertainment fans, Nicholas Crenson, what is this whole idea about a bigger picture that you speak of?
Besides myself, 4 names: Jovi, Marshall, Craven, JDT. Darkfire is one rung below that. The bigger picture are those 4 individuals and myself, because those people, they're the ones who determine the future. And I just like to disrupt that narrative a bit.
But you mentioned all those different names, right? But I'm curious, why wouldn't you have listed your name?
Because those are the 4 others besides myself.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I was gonna say, listen, with all due respect, I was kind of waiting for something else. You mentioned those 4 names, and I was kind of waiting for Nicholas Crenson's name to come up in there, but you obviously included yourself there, so I couldn't call you guys the Four Horsemen because there's 5 of you, so I can't call you that. And Mason Black
Oh,
says, "Yeah, go ahead."
don't get it wrong. I'm not saying that we're in cahoots or anything. God, no. like I want to hurt each every one of them. Like Jovi, I'm hoping your shoulder gets dislocated again badly. Craven, oh man, oh, I can't wait to actually get a chance to face you again. Just because you talked the other night about being evil.
Yep.
You have no idea what true evil is until you realize when you hear somebody's arm popping out of socket, it is one of the most wonderful sounds in the world. So be careful when you talk about being evil because you're looking at true evil.
Well, I'll tell you what I did notice here before I get to another comment. You basically, to me, it's every man for themselves here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment because there are wrestlers that fall on different sides of the coin. And you know what, Nicholas Crenson? You're in it for Nicholas Crenson. I think that's what I observed here. Also, when it comes to this bigger
Oh,
picture idea.
I knew I liked being on your show for a reason because you are a smart man.
I don't know if I'm that not. I don't think I'm that smart, but we have you on, so we clearly know we want ratings. We need fans. We need listeners because you do great listeners. I'll tell you that much because I got people tuned in here left and right for Nicholas Crenson. So I'll say that much here. And Mason Black says here, I almost have to bring this because you did mention JDT, and he says you better have your own chair for JDT. What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, I think I know what he means. He's talking
Yes.
about JDT's infamous chair.
Yes, because you were
The
listed on last week's show with your name was on the chair. He showed the chair.
Yes,
I think that's why.
yes,
Yep.
and the interesting thing about that chair is he forgets that he needs to put his own name on it. Like JDT is amazing. I'll give JDT. He's one of the hardest hitting wrestlers in WCE, but boy
Absolutely. Oh, no question about that.
boy picked the wrong match to face me in. You
True.
don't win a last man standing match against me, and when introduce something like a chair, I like poetic justice when I deal out pain on people, and the biggest poetic justice I felt was to use his own chair on him. So he might want to add his own name on his chair.
Well, that's interesting because I wouldn't have thought about that, but that's clearly why you're Nicholas Crenson and I'm not because you clearly are one step ahead of everyone else. And that's why if you're on Facebook, you certainly need to follow Nicholas Crenson for all the great things that he does in the wrestling ring. He is a phenomenal wrestler. He is certainly potentially on his way to some deadly damage here again. I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but certainly Hurricane Ian, I know, is going to hurt a lot of people. And I say this again with viewer discretion is advised that a hurricane could be coming to Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Fight or Fright Part 1 and Part 2, and that hurricane could be Hurricane Crenson. As far as I'm aware of, is there a Hurricane Crenson that's named or Hurricane Nicholas? I mean, because theoretically, I do think a hurricane is coming next weekend to Wrestling Championship Entertainment.
I'm not sure if they've named any hurricanes or tropical storms after. Well, definitely not Crenson and maybe Nicholas, but
We'll get our crack staff to look at it because right now, the way you're speaking, you got me worried that a hurricane is coming, and certainly Mason Black says, "Stand back, Crenson. There's a hurricane coming through." Mason Black, we'll certainly find out. You might be coming to Sportswire Radio soon. We'll certainly stay tuned. We'll certainly see if the powers that be may or may not want that, or I want that. But I have a feeling that Nicholas Crenson, we may have nobody coming on to Sportswire Radio again because he may just ravage and damage the entire roster. Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, from what we've heard here on Sportswire Radio, is that Adonis Felios and Darkfire, their days could be numbered here. And that means if I'm the rest of the roster, if I'm the likes of Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, or the ruler of the yard, Craven Rage, or JDT or certainly the unhinged James Marshall, who we'll get to in a second. Something tells me here Nicholas Crenson is going to find his way on the Mount Rushmore of things here in wrestling championship entertainment. Something tells me here, Nicholas Crenson, that James Marshall may be unhinged, but he certainly is very, very lucky to escape, and he escaped narrowly with that interstate open weight championship. He narrowly, I mean, we're talking very narrowly escaped.
Yeah, kind of my hubris picking an Iron Man match because I mostly picked it because I just wanted to hurt James Marshall for 30 minutes. I didn't care about winning,
Really?
but
You
kind
didn't
of
care
should
about
have.
winning?
I think I kind of should have because, oh man, having the gold just gives you more power, and power is awesome. See, I knew how to beat James, and I beat him right away. If I
You're
would
up
have had,
2-0. Listen, you heard
I
it. We asked him right away, 2-0. What's going on through your mind, champ? I mean, you pretty much that first 8 or 9 minutes. I mean, it looked like you were going to beat him 5-0, 6-0, 7-0. And he talked about for all those weeks how he was going to be the one shutting you out, but yet it was you that was shutting out James Marshall.
uh,
That's the way it was working for a while.
oh, like I said, I am famous for making people eat their words, and I love doing it because just to see that look of despair when the oh I have screwed up moment real happens, and you realize that all that boasting was for nothing. That look is one of the best looks ever because you can see somebody who is literally already defeated themselves. Now, keeping them defeated, though, that's the trick.
But let me ask you this question, and I do want to bring it up as we're speaking again here with pro wrestling star here, Nicholas Crenson. Of course, Nicholas Crenson doing a phenomenal job here once again representing Wrestling Championship Entertainment because, again, the champion is tuned in. And I want to ask you conversely then this question. I know you talked about the fact that it didn't mean so much to win and you were giving him punishment. You did. You inflicted a lot of punishment, no question about it. It was a great match. Take a step back from everything else. It was a great match. But, I mean, when you're up 2-0, let's say quarter way through that match, I mean, are you thinking as if you're going to win this 5-0, 6-0, or do you purposely take your foot off the gas? I mean, like, what are you thinking when you have that head start that the way you had it?
I'm thinking that I've got like 20 more or 18 more minutes to lay in the punishment. Maybe he'll get a couple lucky shots off and get ahead of me, or we'll get tied up. Who knows? But I am just focused on hurting him.
So, was there anything that you regretted or would have done differently throughout that contest in terms of maybe making it a different outcome, or what do you think?
I would have done the destroyer twice, and I would have done it on the floor.
And that would have meant the outcome would have been totally different. And right now, you'd have Marshall's title, no?
Yeah, it would. Hindsight is 2020, but
True.
you know, if I could have changed my strategy, I probably would have. But you can't change the past.
No, that's what they always say. And trust me, there's plenty of things in my life that I would love to have changed. And I'm sure anybody here listening to this would probably concur. But unfortunately, as a wise man once told me many, many years ago when I was a kid, and I've always used this line since, it is what it is. And it is what it is that James Marshall is still the interstate openweight champion, but he certainly has his work cut out for him in his own right next weekend, and we certainly will see what happens there. And we have
You
here,
know,
yeah, jump in before I get to
you
management.
know. Oh, management, go ahead. See what they have to
Okay.
say.
Well, management's tuned in here, and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to address management? Would you like to say anything toward the powers that be here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment?"
Move along. They're not my focus right now.
Oh, okay. They're not. So not
Mm-mm.
even Mark Packer or anybody else at all. Nobody's your focus.
Mark Packer, I've already got his attention, so I don't need to focus on them right now. So I'm good.
All right. So if hey, listen, if you're good, then I mean, so there's nothing you want to say to them. Is there anything you'd like to say to James Marshall? Is there anything you'd like to say to him at all? Because he's had an interesting past 24 hours. I'm sure you're aware of, by the way.
Oh, I am very aware of, and
He had probably the. I thought I've had a bad last 24 hours. I mean, he's had unfortunately some really really bad luck out there. Certainly follow him on Facebook to find out. But is there anything you'd like to say to him while he's here?
James, I can't wait to kick your ass again, and I know you feel the same. But until our paths cross again, bite me.
Wow. Well, that's not how it ended, though. You shook hands with him, though. To me, it was almost like I almost felt, and I asked him this question. It was not to say it was an end of an era, but it almost felt like things left off a certain way. So I guess no, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would famously say.
How would I say this? You can respect somebody, but still despise the person. So
Fair point. Fair point. I can certainly sympathize with that. That is certainly fair. I mean, I think the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels reference, I think that Mason Black made earlier in the show would certainly ring true. That would be an example. Those guys definitely respect each other. They may not be friends, but I'm sure they had some respect for their ring abilities. And Marshall says, if I make it to Fight or Fright 2, seeing as my vehicle got sabotaged. But he's got a question for you. And he says, did that loss really crack you? Did it crack you? I mean, because you said it didn't at all. You said that was almost like, other than doing the Destroyer just once, that you were just content with just beating up James Marshall all match. I mean, did the loss crack you or no?
no. I mean, yeah, it would have been great to be interstate champion, but really, it just allowed me to let loose, allowed me to stop caring. It allowed me to finally be myself.
So why do you think then, in your own words here, that you weren't yourself here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment? Why do you think that was?
I was worried too much what people actually thought instead of just being honest with myself. And really, the fans are the least of my worries because in the end they are just blips on the radar. They are not the centerpieces, and everything I'm going to do is to inject mayhem into this company.
Ladies and gentlemen, if Nicholas Crenson didn't care about the fans before, he certainly isn't worried about the fans at all right now. And I would certainly say, most importantly, once again, if you're in that locker room right now, you should certainly be even further worried. And as I continue to say, a hurricane might be coming to a ring near you, into a wrestling championship entertainment ring near you, and Fight or Fright is coming. Fight or Fright 2 is the biggest event of the year. Forget about SummerSlam. Forget about Double or Nothing. Forget about WrestleCast Flair's last match and Survivor Series, WrestleMania. They have nothing on what we are going to see next weekend. And listen, James Marshall, if he's able to get there. Well, I actually have to ask this question. I hate to throw this out there because James Marshall did throw something out there that I wasn't planning to ask Nicholas Crenson. But I will say, I mean, if his vehicle, let's say, pertains him from showing up, what does that mean for his championship? Do you want to ponder that question?
I am not sure.
Okay. So no
I'm not
interest.
one to really answer those questions.
Obviously, because you said management, you want nothing to. You don't really not on your mind right now, right? Management is not on the mind of yours. So, and almost in a sense, I get the sense that gold doesn't mean as much to you at the moment. It's more about inflicting pain and showing people maybe a different light almost. Maybe Dark Fire needs to show, like the Doors famously said, light my fire. Maybe you're going to light his fire. Maybe the Drip King Adonis Felios, well, maybe he might need to drip into his own sweat, his own pool of vomit that you might give him. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here on Sportswire Radio, but Mr. Marshall does respond and says that Adonis is a big fill in the blanks blip, and he has a one-up record on you. Short or long match, he's a threat. So what he's telling you though is take Adonis seriously. Do you agree?
Well, of course, I take everybody seriously. I just don't care. I I don't care how big of a threat somebody is. I'm just doing this for fun. Like, I'm going to hurt him. Is he going to hurt me? Probably. But I don't care.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I would certainly, again, Adonis Felios, listen, you may have another thing coming here on Sportswire Radio. And while I have a chance here, while a number of people are tuned in, I want to make sure everybody goes to WCEHeat.com to get more information on Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and certainly go over to the YouTube page of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. You can also go and like on Facebook at WCE Heat for the Wrestling Championship Entertainment Facebook page for information on match shows, highlights, announcements, you name it. Wrestling Championship Entertainment has it, and I cannot thank enough the company for all of their support on Sportswire Radio. I'm very grateful also for the clips that we've seen here. They've shown various interviews. Also, our adverts are in WC Heat shows. So definitely, please make sure that you watch Fighter Fright 2. It is a great, great card. Part 1 and Part 2. Nicholas Crenson, you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're getting 2 for the price of 1 with him. So certainly he's going to be working day and night. So certainly, like Michael Jackson famously used to say, Nicholas Crenson is going to be working day and night. And he is going to be working like there's no tomorrow. Those are reasons why you have to follow our friends over at WCE Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes here with Nicholas Crenson. Obviously, Nicholas Crenson, a very, very busy man right now as he's obviously getting ready for big matches ahead. Adonis, Felios, the Drip King, and Dark Fire. And Dark Fire, like I said, fire might be being put out. Drip may drip no more. And James Marshall responds to you, Nicholas Crenson, and says that I feel somewhat responsible for this darker side of Crenson. I feel apologetic about what Crenson has done to Darkfire in 2 incidents.
Don't give yourself too much credit, Mr. Marshall. I have always been this way. I'm just being a little bit more open about it.
So are you saying that we didn't know you until recently?
You did, but a lot of you, like I said, a lot of people miss the obvious.
So we missed something then about you. Maybe we misread you. We missed something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely missed something.
And we have a comment from somebody that says they want to team up with you in the future. But right now, I don't think you're teaming up with anybody. You're looking to basically beat up the entire roster. And this is before I get to a comment that you're going to want to really, really see on the screen. But I don't think you're teaming up with anybody anytime soon. Am I correct?
Correct. At least I don't plan on it.
Fair enough. Yeah, you don't seem like right now the teaming up type. Right now, if I was in the ring against you, what I would want to do is let the ref count to 10, and I would say forfeit. That's probably, if I were to do anything right now, my advice to Adonis Felios and Darkfire, after hearing from Nicholas Crenson tonight, ladies and gentlemen, here on Sportswire Radio, is you might want to let the ref count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and let yourself get counted out to save yourself the punishment. But let me get to this comment here because you're going to really want to see this one here. And this comment here says, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Evil. One, I am the sole representative of the greatest of all time, the longest reigning defending champion of the world, the ruler of the yard, Craven Rage. Boy, oh boy there, Nicholas Crenson.
How's that skull handling Craven? How's that head of yours? Seriously, how's that head? How's that neck? How's that shoulder?
And I think James Marshall might have had it said best here. I mean, I think Craven Rage hacked WC's page because last I checked, I didn't realize Craven Rage was WC Championship Entertainment. So maybe James Marshall's onto something.
Craven.
But honestly, he's got JDT. He's got his hands full with him because JDT.
Oh, I'm entertained by the notion of those two fighting each other just because they're going to hurt each other. And
you might want to have Dr. Andrews on call the entire night. Listen, I know we talked about Darkfire maybe with a neck brace and a neck surgery from Dr. Andrews, but I really think that management might want to call Dr. Andrews in for the entire weekend, and especially for JDT and Craven Rage, because I have a feeling there, Nicholas Crenson, that doctors really, really are going to be needed because something tells me those two guys, we might want to have a long off season, which we're going into. We're definitely going into the off season because I think after those two get done with each other, it's going to be poetic that we're going into the off season, my friend.
Well, you also have to understand that, say, Craven survives JDT.
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
He's got a 3 stages of hell match with Dash Andrews the next day.
I knew you were going with that because I knew you were going with that. I mean, if Craven really finds a way to survive this, if he survives JDT and somehow Dash Andrews, I might actually say, you know what? He might be the greatest of all time. I mean, I'll go on the record. I know you're great. I know that you're great. But if he finds a way to survive, Craven Rage survives JDT, and we saw JDT last weekend. JDT looked like, I mean, you want to talk about your rage right now, no pun intended? I mean, he looked like somebody that could be in the movie Cape Fear. I mean, he literally looked like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. I mean, so if Craven Rage finds a way to get through JDT and then to Dash Andrews, yeah, you know what? Maybe he is the greatest of all time. Forget about Roman Reigns, Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan. You forget about any of those champions. Because you know what? If you get through those individuals, and on top of what we've seen from Sean Jovi, listen, maybe that's the case. And Raven Wolf says, Nicholas Crenson, I may be a newbie, but if anything, you just met your match and blah, 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 blah. We'll have time for that to come on later on. He certainly says here that Mason Black, he would like to see somebody here. But we have here Craven Rage will definitely stand tall. Well, we'll find out. This might be Craven's toughest test. I'll say that here before we sign up. That is definitely going to be Craven's toughest test. I mean, I think even you would agree. This is going to be his toughest weekend yet.
Yeah, like I'll give him this. I hope he does stand tall because I like the fact that he's just going through everything and he's getting higher and higher and his ego is expanding more and more and more, and it's just so delightful because when it finally happens,
And
because
James,
nothing lasts forever, and everything, even the end, is inevitable.
oh, I'm certainly finding that out certainly here tonight, and just everything else that's going on in my life. So I could certainly sympathize that here. And James Marshall says, "You're mocking what I represent, Craven." I mean, that's an interesting comment there. Is there something there that I'm missing? You're mocking what I represent, Craven? Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I might have seen a jab thrown between James Marshall to Craven Rage. I mean, boy, I don't want to get in the middle of that one. And James Marshall goes on further. If Craven survives, Dash has the advantage depending on Craven's state of condition. I mean, yeah, you know what? Dash Andrews, maybe he's the one to break the ruler, to break the rules, to break Craven. I don't know, but I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Crenson, I mean, you got your work cut out for him, but I think Craven Rage has really got his work cut out for him. That's all I've learned here tonight. So Craven Rage is definitely he's going to be craving some rages because he's getting them. And Nicholas Crenson is, you know what, Nicholas Crenson, I want to
I
ask you, jump in, jump in,
He
jump in.
mentioned the three. If he survives JDT, he's got that 3 stages of hell match. I honestly, and maybe because he is young, but I honestly see that Craven has the advantage in that match because why waste an opportunity to win a title at the perfect time by giving your opponent ample time to know who they're facing? Why waste your perfect opportunity?
Well,
Go ahead. I hope Andrews does win in a way, but I because I want him to prove me wrong, but I just think he's just wasting his golden ticket.
let me bring up a comment here before I go back into this whole James Marshall and Craven Rage dynamic. But you might want to see this comment from this potential individual. And this potential individual says, "You dropped your pocket, Crenson. Look down, man. You seriously dropped your pocket." And when he laughs.
Nice to know that he's picked himself out of that ditch that I threw him in.
That was a big ditch
Ah,
too. I'll say that was a big ditch. Big, 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 big ditch. I'll say that.
but I hate him. Darkfire, I hate your stupid sense of humor. You can take things seriously if you want, or you can try to talk up big game, but I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to leave you for dead.
Certainly, this individual might want to go back and rewatch this interview because I'm telling you, if I were you, I would definitely do that if you haven't already. And James Marshall says, given the circumstance, Craven, you might not get me next season. And then I'm assuming this is Craven who's taking over the WCE Facebook page. But again, WCE Heat is how you can like and follow on Facebook, Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We will see. And James Marshall also says, I'll give Darkfire some pointers on kicking your ass, Crenson. You know what? James Marshall's getting into everybody's business. I mean, boy, he's getting in. He's got
It,
Craven Rage. He's got you. He's got Darkfire. I mean, listen, he's talked about Adonis. Go ahead, jump in.
well, here's the thing. What match does James Marshall currently have for day one?
Well,
Who is James Marshall facing for day
well,
one?
well. I think we know that is Darkfire. He
Hmm.
signed that contract.
Now, wouldn't you ever think of the irony of what if Darkfire would have win?
You know what? I never thought of that. So you mean to tell me that Darkfire could win, right? The Interstate Openweight Championship? And then maybe the plan after all is for you, after what you did to Darkfire, to just pick up the pieces. You're saying that and transition peacefully to being the interstate openweight champion and the guy in wrestling championship entertainment. Maybe that was your plan after all. Maybe that's what you should have did from the very beginning then. Not even have to worry about the 30-minute Iron Man match because Darkfire, you're saying is going to beat Marshall and then you're going to beat Darkfire and
Oh,
you're going to be the ruler.
I'm not gonna be presumptuous and say that Dark Rider is going to beat James Marshall. I'm saying if he does, he still has no chance against me, and
Fair point. All
title
right.
title be on the line would be nice because then I have a nice little shiny token of something that I took from him.
Hmm. But it certainly would help, though, obviously, having that championship. And certainly, I mean, I know you said gold isn't quite on the mind right now, but I certainly would imagine, though, that having gold would mean something to you. There's no question that it certainly would mean. And certainly, gold is gold, and especially the prize that almost everybody in professional wrestling wants, and that is the Wrestling Championship Entertainment Interstate Openweight Championship held by the unhinged James Marshall, who will be in action also. Fight or Fright 2. Well, I would have to say with a catch, though, Nicholas Crenson, depending on his vehicle. Because he did tell us, though, the champ did tell us that he's having some vehicle issues. So I guess we're going to find out here. So if the champ is able to make it next week, he will be putting up his title on the line against Darkfire. Also, Sean Jovi as well. That's going to be him and the Resident Rockstar. We know the history there in the Pure Rules match. I mean, listen, James Marshall's got his own issues. I mean, boy, between Darkfire and Jovi, I mean, boy, Craven and Marshall, their days could be coming to an end. We'll find out, though. He also says, I'll be Darkfire's Miyagi and you're Johnny Lawrence. Get a body bag ready, Crenson. He'll crane kick you in the face. Wow. Boy, James Marshall just throwing a left and right here tonight. Nicholas Crenson, you're getting it from everywhere. Everywhere.
I wouldn't think any less of James Marshall to do that just because, like me, he enjoys causing mayhem and violence.
And he does happen to like the Karate Kid. I will tell you, he does actually happen to like it. Well, listen. All right, Cobra Kai, all that stuff, fine and well. But as we're coming up to an end here on, I think, one of the more interesting interviews that we've ever had here on Sportswire Radio when it comes to pro wrestling star here, Nicholas Crenson, who I cannot stress enough again, despite what you've heard, do please friend him and like his page on Facebook at Nicholas Crenson because this guy is somebody that you're going to be remembering here as we get ready for the off-season Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And I can promise you one thing on Sportswire Radio. Your coverage of all the latest happenings in the world of Wrestling Championship Entertainment will continue in the off-season because we will have weekly interviews. We will have updates. We will have all that stuff that you've come to love here with us and Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That will continue here on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. But Nicholas Crenson, I want to ask you this question here because this will most likely be the last time we'll have you on before Fight or Fright 2, Part 1 and Part 2. And what are your final words for, one, the Drip King, Adonis Felios, and, of course, the aforementioned Darkfire?
Adonis, you better have an ice pack and possibly a sling ready for your shoulder. And Darkfire, hopefully we got a stretcher for you, buddy, or a wheelchair, because you're both going to need those things when I'm done with you.
And James Marshall says, I have Mark Packer on the phone to deal with Craven shenanigans on the WCE Facebook page. So Mark Packer, I think, is going to be paying attention very closely. And this individual who says, evening, I'm watching very closely. Well, here's my advice to this individual, that this individual might want to go watch the first 10 or 11 minutes of this show tonight because it was pretty cut and dry what Nicholas Crenson is going to do to this individual who knows an individual that's going to be in the ring with Nicholas Crenson, Fight or Fright Part 1 for Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That would be my absolute advice. And take that advice very closely here, my friend. Take the advice because I can assure you, you might want to prepare for it. You better listen. That's all I can say. So, certainly, here we have gone through a lot tonight. And I want one more time everybody to follow Wrestling Championship Entertainment, WCEHeat.com for match information. Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube. Also, WCE Heat on Facebook is the page where you can like all content related to Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And this individual also says, I'm also listening. Well, he's also listening, so that's good. You got to listen, right? I mean, so certainly.
You listen, but also study, because you had a short match with me. Now you're going to have a long match with me, so you better study, or everything that I said is going to come true.
You know what, though? I don't know how much you can study in a week. Because I remember when I was studying for the SATs, or when I took constitutional law in college, or when I took economics, and my professor would tell me that I had to study from day one, not in a week, not to cram all up what Nicholas Crenson is saying. I don't know if it's going to be feasible here. And this individual also says, Nicholas Crenson, prepare for the fill in the blanks whipping. So he's saying he's giving it back to you and some here. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know what's true and what's not anymore on Sportswire Radio. But I certainly do know one thing. I cannot wait for Fight or Fright Part 2, Part 1, Part 2, Friday, Saturday. Obviously excited for all that. I'm also here on Sportswire Radio to announce that we will have more coverage of Wrestling Championship Entertainment to announce later this week. I'll also be back on the air Friday night with our American Sportswire Radio team and show. And Nicholas Crenson, good luck. I'm assuming that is from Craven Rage, who we think is still in charge right now of the Wrestling Championship Entertainment Facebook page, but we'll plead the fifth on that. I don't know. And is there anything else you want to say? And I want to give you the floor now for closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, or anything else that I'm missing that I haven't touched upon? And the floor is now yours, Nicholas Crenson.
Simply put, Adonis, I'm going to hurt you. Darkfire, I'm going to hurt you. Those aren't threats, those are promises, and those aren't malicious intent, just my sick, twisted sense of humor. As for, like, not really caring about the gold, I will say I do care about the gold. In the end, it's all about the gold. When you think about it, the end of every ploy is the gold, and the gold for me is a tool of power. So don't think I'm not gonna manipulate my way into things at some point.
And something tells me
play
here.
the long con.
Well, you know what? That long game, that long goal, maybe by part 2. Listen, if James Marshall's able to make it, according to vehicle issues, if he's able to make it, and Darkfire finds a way, I mean, listen, maybe gold is coming a lot sooner than we've anticipated when it comes to Nicholas Crenson. And also, I believe this is Craven Rage, and he says, just remember who's the ruler of the yard. But we'll find out. Craven Rage, you better worry.
You might be the ruler of the. You might be the ruler of the yard, Craven. But you're looking at the new Messiah.
The new Messiah. I'm gonna remember that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna remember that. But I'll say one thing about Craven Rage. Your run as champion is probably your most tenuous yet. Your 5 months plus as champion, this is your most tenuous time. You will be the greatest of all time, in my opinion, if you're able to vanquish JDT and Dash Andrews. If you pull that off the way you did it, I think that you're going to certainly be that for sure. Remember, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So certainly here, That's very, very important words. And Nicholas Crenson, remember this: you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So this individual is steadfast on saying that. So we'll find out all of that here on Sportswire Radio. And ladies and
Uh,
gentlemen, you want to say one more thing here?
yeah, I'm gonna say two interesting things here. You
Okay,
know how many times I've died now?
tell us.
I can count on my hand 3 times. So don't think I am worried about dying. No, I'm just worried about having fun and hurting as many people as I can. And to Craven, I hope you do survive this weekend because it's your ego that is building and building, and seeing you become the greatest and then fall great heights to the bottom. Now that, my friend, is irony, and I love the idea of irony because when you do finally fall, the irony about it is no one will care about you. They will only care about the person who beat you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe Nicholas Crenson has not 3 times death, but 9 lives, as they might say, when it comes to cats. I don't know. And this is Craven saying, I am definitely looking forward to having the new Messiah to fall to me again. But listen, Craven Rage, all I know is that JDT and Dash Andrews, they're going to be occupied with Craven Rage. So I'm going to plead the fifth on all that. And besides Nicholas Crenson, even if I die trying, whatever that might mean, you can go interpret it for the way you want. But if you're on Sportswire Radio, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the host and the station manager of the station. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in here tonight because we were joined with pro wrestling star here from Wrestling Championship Entertainment before maybe, just maybe, one of the biggest weekends ahead of his career where he'll be in action for Wrestling Championship Entertainment's Fight or Fright Part 1 and Part 2 against the Drip King, Adonis Felios, and Dark Fire, where Dark Fire's past and some could be coming to roost. We'll find all of that out here. Plus, Craven Rage will be in action against JDT and Dash Andrews. We'll also have James Marshall. Should he be able to make it? Obviously, he's had some unforeseen circumstances. We'll find out about here. But if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you will go eventually to your regularly scheduled programming here. And we also have here, thank you, Tom Bryce, next season, bigger, better, and better than before. But we still got next weekend ahead. And we've still got, I want to remind everybody, wall to wall, weekly coverage on Sportswire Radio. The off season never stops with us because you're going to have your fix, your WCE heat craving like I do, or you crave Wrestling Championship Entertainment, where you need your favorite stars, your information, all of that is going to be here on the #1 global radio station. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back here next week with some more coverage of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. In the meantime, we were joined here by pro wrestling star here, Nicholas Crenson, ahead of his matches against the Drip King, Adonis Felios, and Darkfire. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be on the #1 global radio station. Until next time, Sportswire Radio.